One of our three main themes of design, recruit, scale. And today's is on the design theme. And it's a topic pretty close to my heart, which is drowning in emails, how to manage traffic flow so you can be productive and profitable at the same time. I don't know what the first introduction you had to Wize was, but this was my first introduction, was about managing traffic flow. I think it's pretty foundational to our philosophy at Wize. It's a really great topic. And I'm really looking forward to doing like a deep dive just on this topic alone. We're looking at designing, and that's really all about systems. Today's topic is how to manage traffic flow so you can be productive and profitable at the same time. As we'll see from Ed in a moment, nothing eats up profits fast enough than having this kind of washing machine approach to communication. And it also makes scaling really hard if you haven't got this under control. So it's not just a topic for smaller firms, it's a topic really for firms of every size. It's so crucial to running your business properly. So yeah, look, to jump straight in, I'd love to hear from you on this, Ed. I've got loads of questions, but just to start with, can you explain how important it is to systematize the business and get all the processes flowing smoothly, and particularly looking at traffic flow, and how does that benefit the practice to get that under control?
Thanks, Tim. Before I answer that, I'll just take a step back just to give it some context. If you deal with a business and they don't respond to you quickly, like they might take 2 or 3 days to respond to you, the body language they're giving to you is that they're not really interested. They've got more important things to do, and you're really low on their priority list. If you had to deal with company A or company B, and company A responds to you very, very quickly, and company B is very, very slow in responding, then you're going to deal with company A. Now, as a customer, that's easy to see, but as the provider of services, often we don't see that because we're drowning in our own problems and we're trying to deal with them, so we don't see it from the customer's point of view. So I'd like to just start with that comment, that if you take your time to respond, your body language is that you don't care, you've got other things to do, they're very low on your priority list. So that's not a good message to give your customers. So now for the leaders of the organization, you need to understand it so that you can make sure that your staff understand it, because often they don't. It might be obvious to you and me, but it's not obvious to the rest of the team sometimes because we're busy. Something happens, the computer breaks down, there's something at work, so you're dealing with that and you're not paying attention to your customers. Now, our policy is that we must return our emails on the same day, immediately if possible, on the same day or at the very latest the next morning. And if you can't do that the next morning, you need to get someone to get in touch with the client to let them know when you can respond. So that's a policy. And it's not hard to do, provided you pay attention to it. So that's the context. So let's now move on to how we address that. In a business, you get a lot of traffic coming through. The traffic is generally broken up between communication traffic and production traffic. And because as individuals, we're strong in certain things and not so strong in other things, then some people are much better at responding to and communicating with clients, and others are more stronger on production. They prefer to sit and just do the work. Firstly, you've got to identify your strengths and weaknesses, and then you develop a blueprint of your team on how to manage the production and the communication and the traffic, because it's an enormous amount of traffic that comes through an accounting firm, whether it's strategic, whether it's operational, whether it's addressing concerns, whether it's a sales, whatever it is, it's an enormous amount of traffic. And traditionally, firms run flat teams. What I mean by that is that the traffic just comes in and whoever's there addresses it. And there's a number of problems with that. Nobody answers it. So, for example, I often see out-of-office messages when someone's not there. The out-of-office message says, contact the office. Well, guess what happens when they contact the office? When nobody wants to take that call, everybody's waiting for somebody else to take the call, and nobody takes the call. And then it's imposed on someone, they reluctantly take it. So by the time they're facing the client, they're not very happy. There's a number of issues that occur if you don't have systems and structure and the protocol and formal way of responding to things. So that's when we developed our deep and narrow team structures. So playing people in position rather than out of position, because the person who is more inclined to the people person, so someone who's a people person will be more inclined to take phone calls and respond to emails than someone who's a production person who would rather just sit there and do the of production work. But the first thing is you've got to start off with your blueprint and who's in this ideal team structure, what would it look like? So the senior client manager takes all the communication. The senior production manager is in charge of the production, and their level of communication with the client is at a more production level, like you're missing your bank statement, can you send me bank statement 57? That level of communication. And then there's the juniors and the production people underneath that, sitting there uninterrupted, getting on with producing the work and not being interrupted all day. So if you can get that deep and narrow team structure moving, designed, then you can then say, okay, now who am I going to recruit, or who in my existing team will suit those positions? And then you pick and choose the ones so that they're playing in position, not out of position. So it's a bit like a sporting game. Everyone's got a position. So if you take soccer or football, for example, everyone's got a position, and you don't play them out of position. And you don't say, okay, let's be fair to everyone and everyone have a turn in this position. Well, it doesn't work, because you want to play the best person in that position. Well, it depends on whether you want to win the game. If you want to be fair to everyone, then that's different. But if you want to win this game, then you put the best people in the right positions, and they're happier as well. Because if you're trying to play someone out of position, they're not going to do their job very well, and they're not going to be very happy. So for all those reasons, it's extremely important to design your team. Then that's going to address the managing of the emails, because often I hear comments like, I haven't got time to respond to my emails, and all sorts of other excuses. And a lot of it is real. It's not made up. It's because the structure is not right, which is then causing the blockage to production. So if you can separate out the roles, then you manage the client's expectations by educating them through the acknowledgement letters and the things that we talk about, that to direct their traffic into the right people. So typically owners of businesses take on all the traffic first, and then they delegate it down to their staff. Well, 80% of what the client needs can be handled by the staff. So why take that initial core email and then you delegate it down? That's just double handling. So the way we do it is we allow the traffic to go to the client manager first. So 100% of the traffic goes to the client manager, and the client manager brings the partner in 20% of the time that's required. So you're keeping the partner's time at a very high level, and then you can charge your time at that very high level. And then 80% of the traffic goes down to the client manager, whose job is then to work with the production manager to delegate the work out to the team. And then that frees the partner up to do the top 20%. So they can charge at that rate. And the senior client manager handles the client at the 80% level, so that they can push the work down and they can free themselves up to take the emails, the communication emails. And then that frees the production manager to handle the production emails, and you manage it that way. Often I see firms say, appoint a secretary to handle the emails. Well, that's just putting a band-aid on the problem. And if you fix the problem rather than address the symptoms, then you don't need to put all these band-aids. And I see other people taking emails to a central point and then distributing emails from there. But again, I think that's a band-aid solution. If you address the problem, direct the emails to the right person to begin with, through education to the clients over time, then you don't need to put on band-aids. And it works pretty well.
Yeah, it does. I'm glad you kind of talked about how you can use it to leverage. It's not just about kind of getting things under control and kind of minimizing the chaos, but it allows you to leverage in a big way. Some of the firms I work with in Wize Growth are surprised that I can have such small teams handling $1 million in fees. Just for context, I've got several teams handling $1 million in revenue per team. And yeah, like 3 or 4 people per team, and they managed to get through it pretty smoothly because they managed to separate out those roles, as Ed's just kind of laid out for us. Thanks very much for that, Ed. This is a great topic. We could talk all day on this one. Ed, can you leave us with one action point you'd suggest taking? Like, where should we begin if firms on today's call have, this is all new to them? And it's a bit overwhelming. 7 steps is a lot. Deep and narrow teams is a lot. What's one thing they could do to begin?
One action point. Well, it depends on where you are, I guess. If you haven't even started this, the action point is to design your blueprint of your ideal team. And in the Wize Vault, it's got it all there. You can just go in there, just do a search, and there's a map, if you like, of what the ideal team is. So design that first. If you've already done that and you're trying to get your staff to buy into it, then, hold a meeting and bring them all in. Well, have a one-on-one meeting with them first to get their buy-in, and then you're going to get pushback. Often firms come back to me and say, oh, I got pushback. And I said, yeah, what did you expect not to? That's what leadership's all about. It's about leading them. There's a saying, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you've got to bring your team with you. And how effectively you bring your team with you is all about your leadership. And I have people say, as someone pushed back, so you gave up. Well, no, that's not leadership. Leadership is persistence, is continuing to push forward and to convince. All that's happened when someone pushes back is you you haven't been an effective enough communicator, and you haven't been an enough leader to convince your people to come with you on this journey. And as I say often, that some people are early adopters, they get it and they come along straight away, and others are middle adopters where you've got to have several conversations with them. Other people are late adopters and you've got to have 20, 30 conversations with them before they change their habits. But an effective leader understands that, and they show patience and persistence. So depending on where you are in your journey will be the action point that you'll take. But it's all about leadership. If you don't lead, you can have the best people in the world, you can have the best systems in the world, but if you don't lead your team, it's all going to fall over. So part of our sessions here is to help you with your mindset around leadership, because nobody taught us how to lead, and often we promote our staff to managers and expect them to lead their team without any education, without any training. And I often say, if you're hiring someone to do your work, tax work or your accounting work, you need for them to have experience and you need to train them up. And yet we promote people to managers, but we don't give them any training. So these sessions are about helping with the mindset, helping with the ability to manage. Managing is completely different to doing. Doing is, again, it's different to managing. It's a different task, and not everybody can do it.
Yeah, awesome. It's a great one to leave us on.